Hello, guys. This is Nick Christophers. Welcome to Mob Tales. Hope you guys will subscribe, like, share, all that other fun stuff. Today we are here with my good friend, great actor, Al Sapienza, who's joining us from beautiful Toronto.
Hello.
We'd like to welcome you, Al, to the show, and thank you very much for taking your time.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. We drove here 3.5 hours to get to do this interview in Toronto.
I don't think it was just for me. I don't think.
No, I really wanted to get here. I wanted to do it. I was hoping we could have done it on the way, but there was no very bad cell service in Ontario, when you're driving around outside of the cities. But anyway, it all worked out. Here we are.
Yeah, that's all. That's all that matters. All right. What I'm going to do is I have a couple of questions I put together first off, I'm going to ask about, so people who are not very familiar, whoever's listening who might not be very familiar with you, which is hard to believe, knowing all the work you've done. I know that you first were a musician. You played the drums, I remember, which I played also when I was a kid. And you transitioned from music to acting. So my question would be is what caused you to transition from music, even though you're still doing it, from music into acting?
Well, that transition, it kind of just came almost naturally. When I saw the Beatles for the first time, February of 1964 on the Ed Sullivan Show, I was with my mother and my brothers and sisters. I was dumbfounded. I thought they were so good. They had such a unique look and sound and personalities. And I was blown away. And I immediately, I don't know why I related to Ringo and not to John Lennon or George Harrison, but I immediately wanted to play the drums. And and it's funny, like, if you watch YouTube tapes of Paul McCartney on the Ed Sullivan Show, they sang 6 songs, their first time ever performing in the United States on television. McCartney never looked at the neck of his guitar once, not once. Harrison looked a lot. Lennon didn't look that much either. That's how prepared they were. That's how much they rehearsed since 1956 to 1964. The guy never looked at the neck of his guitar. He knew every song in his head, So I was hooked. So my dad got me drums. I bugged him, and I played the drums. Then when I was 12 years old in 1968, I think, it was Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. I went to the Nanuet Mall Cinema in Rockland County, and I saw this movie, and I was like, I don't know if these guys are real cowboys or actors. I don't know what a director does, and I don't care. I want to do that. So that was it. Once I saw that movie, I just wanted to be in the movies and TV, really the movies at first. So it just kind of happened. I kept doing music. I do a musical act all over the world right now. We played in Italy in June. We played Vegas with Deborah Renard. She was the star of that movie Lionheart with Jean-Claude Van Damme. She was on Dallas for 186 episodes. And we met in acting school out in LA in 1984. So I'm still playing music, but I just love performing. And I'll tell you later on in the show, I'll tell you exactly why I love performing. I figured it out about 4 years ago.
But when you took that love of the Beatles and everything and that kind of music thing, you also performed Beatlemania.
Yeah, that was so lucky. Like, you have a minute? You want to hear the whole story? You want to hear the bridge version? It's a good story. So I want to be an actor. I'm going to college at NYU. I'm living in the dormitories. My parents are not thrilled. My mother was supportive, but my parents are worried for me. They don't want me to be an actor. They want me to be a lawyer or, something like that. And so I'm in NYU. I'm a senior. I'm taking all my electives in the acting school in Tisch, and I'm studying with Stella Adler. She was the acting teacher at the time. And I'm in a panic thinking like, how am I gonna make it? How am I gonna make money after college to survive, in New York and be an actor? So I took some acting classes outside of NYU because I wasn't that happy with Stella Adler. That's another whole long story. I didn't think she taught success, and I wasn't getting it. So I took some classes outside, and I was the youngest guy. I was like 18, and there was only one other young girl. She was gorgeous, by the way. And so they'd match us up together to do scenes all the time. Her name was Jacqueline Zeman. So I'd have to go to her apartment to rehearse. And I go to her apartment. She's living above the McDonald's in that gorgeous building on 71st and Broadway. It was like a new high rise in those days. And she's living with this DJ by the name of Murray the K. He's 50 and she's 18, and they wound up getting married. And she wound up being the highest paid soap opera star in the United States. She plays Bobby Spencer on General Hospital. She's still on it. So he just took a liking to me and he wanted to help me. So, every time he talked to me, he'd go, kid, you seems like you got something. So he knew I played the drums, and I would play for all the gay singers on Christopher Street, because it was right there in Greenwich Village, and they paid $10 an hour. And that was a lot of money in the late 70s. And this guy made a demo reel. And in those days, the demo reel was vinyl. It wasn't even a cassette or a tape. So I wrote a song. I wrote a love song for the demo reel, and Murray the K heard it and he flipped. He was like, I'm the senior at NYU in college. And he flipped. He's like, this is a hit. You wrote a hit. You don't know it. So he takes me. He goes, Jay Black from Jay and the Americans. He just left Jay and the Americans. He's looking for a hit song. So he takes me to meet Steve Lieber and David Krebs from Lieber Krebs Production. I don't know if you know who that is, but I thought they were old men at the time. They were like 30, And by the time these two guys were 30, they graduated law school. They were agents at William Morris for the Rolling Stones and for the Beach Boys. They quit William Morris, started their own management company. They managed Jay Black, Jay and the Americans, Aerosmith, Parliament Funkadelic, Walter Egan, eventually Joan Jett with Kenny Laguna and AC/DC. So I meet these guys and they say they want the song for Jay Black. And I'm like, great, I'm going to make some money. I'll be able to pay for my acting lessons after college. And then I don't hear from him for a while. Murray calls me up out of nowhere and he says to me, come to SIR Studios at 2:00. I remember 250 West 54th Street. I remember that address too. And I walk in and there are these four guys playing Penny Lane in the rehearsal studio. And in the other rehearsal studio was Art Garfunkel. And in the third rehearsal studio was Meatloaf rehearsing for Saturday Night Live, right? And they sounded exactly like the Beatles. They looked exactly like the Beatles. And then they played Strawberry Fields. And it blew my mind. Joey Pecorino was John Lennon, Mitch Weissman was Paul McCartney, and that was the original first cast. And he said to me, you think you could do that? And I was like, I know I could do that. And he goes, no, not play the drums. Do you think you could sit back there on the drums while the guys in front of you are the stars? That's how perceptive and smart he was. And I was like, yes, I could play Ringo. And I auditioned, and in October of 1977, I got hired. I was in that show till November of 1982, 5 years. And I was able to save money for acting school. And I went out to LA and blah, blah, blah.
Okay, that sounds awesome. Yeah, that's pretty much what I know.
I'm sorry I answered the questions just in one sentence.
Oh, that's okay. It's fine. It's fine. It's all good. I mean, considering the show that we're doing here is called Mob Tales, and we talk about the stuff in that, historically, but also with people that have acted in those roles. And you have done a lot in these roles, with Capone's Boys, I think it was, when you played Johnny Torrio. And you did a great job with that, by the way. Um,
Thank
Capone with Tom Hardy, and of course, we can't forget Mickey Palmise in The Sopranos. So you have done a lot of that kind of work, and you're very convincing in that role. You know, when it came to playing Mickey Palmise, um, what I know people audition for, I'm sure other people audition for the part. What do you think drew the casting directors to really say, "How's the guy"?
What do I think had the casting director say Al's the guy? And also ultimately it was David Chase and Mitch Burgess and Karen Green
Yeah, of
that
course.
said Al's the guy. But again, you want to hear the good long version, or you just want to hear a quick? I have there's a story behind this, man. Do you want these stories, or do you not want them? I won't tell them to you if they're too long for your show. I got The Sopranos totally by accident,
Oh,
completely by accident. Jason Alexander from Seinfeld. If it weren't for him, I would never be in The Sopranos.
wow.
I'll tell you the short. I'll tell you the short version. Jason had me audition for the first movie he ever directed after Seinfeld. I knew him from before Seinfeld. I did theater in LA a lot, and he and I did a show at the same theater. He was playing Harry Truman. I was doing a comedy. We were sharing a dressing room, and we became buddies back in 1992. So now you jump to 1998, and he has me audition for this movie called Cherry Pink. And it was the first movie he directed. I went in, I auditioned. I knew I wasn't going to get it. And I'm leaving, I'm sulking. Usually I do my homework and I know everybody's name in the room. I just didn't then because it was Jason. Well, the casting director on my way out says to me, this is May of 1998. Casting director goes, you interested in doing a television show? And I'm like, as I'm walking out the door, I'm thinking like, no, I want to like sell used cars for a living. So it turned out to be it turned out to be Christopher Walken's wife, Georgianne Walken. She was talking about The Sopranos.
Hmm.
So I was like, sure. She said, we're having trouble casting this role. I think you'd be great. Go to my office. She gave me the address, pick up a copy of the pilot, a script, and your sides. And I want you to go to Silver Cup Studios. This was like on a Tuesday. And I think she wanted me to Silver Cup the next day. I went up to my mother and father's house in Rockland County. And I was just visiting New York in 1998. I was living in LA from 82 till I got The Sopranos. I was here because I was in Godzilla, the 1996 movie Godzilla, and I was at the premiere at Madison Square Garden. So I go do the while I'm here, I get this Jason Alexander audition. So I go and I audition, and she tells me they didn't want a real Goomba. They want a guy like from the Bronx or Brooklyn, from Mikey Palmici. They wanted him a little bit cleaner. They wanted him to speak a little better and be a little bit clean, a little bit more American than the other guys. So I fit the bill because I was in LA. I learned how to talk without a New York accent when I had to, and I studied for 14 years out there. So I auditioned. I never heard of The Sopranos. I was in LA, so I wasn't friends with Jimmy and Tony Sirico and Big Pussy. All those guys knew each other. All the Italian actors knew each other. I didn't. I was in LA doing television. So I read. They called me back immediately. I read again on Friday, and then I read again on Monday. And then on, let me just close this off so it doesn't make any noise. Then on I read again on Monday for David and everybody. On Tuesday, it was the first day of principal photography of the whole series, and I worked that day. So they hired me Monday, threw me into wardrobe, went into wardrobe, and I was at work on Tuesday, and that was the first day shooting in Kearney, New Jersey of The Sopranos. And Jimmy and I did the scene in the car. He goes, hey, Mikey, how's the boy? Well, what boy's that, Tone? The one you sleep with. I'm like, oh, that's really funny. I don't know if you know that scene, but
sure.
we shot that scene the first day, and we improv'd a lot. Jimmy and I improv, and we immediately liked each other. and then they put out a memo the next day, no improving in the show. You say the exact lines. But yeah, they hired me because I fit the bill. I fit what they needed. So I was in the right place at the right time. It was pure luck, that I was auditioning for Jason. And most of life is luck, but you got to be ready that when the luck comes, your craft is there and you're ready to perform. Because most of this is luck. If you have one line in The Godfather and you have half a brain, you can have a career. You could do 50 crappy independent movies and no one will even know. So you got to be ready, and a lot of it is luck. You just got to be ready,
Oh, I agree with that. I agree. But based on that success, that kind of opened some floodgates with other projects, similar to that. Like for example, like The Brotherhood, where you played the mayor. Brotherhood, like I said earlier, Capone's Boys, Capone with Tom Hardy. After The Sopranos, were you kind of not concerned, but kind of thinking, I don't want to get typecasted in this kind of a role, even because you played it so damn well. I loved your character. I mean, and I thought it was awesome.
I'm not proud of this. I grew up around gangsters. I grew up around gangsters. They were around all the time. And I got to tell you another funny story, Nick. My dad, Joseph Sapienza, he owned a famous restaurant in Brooklyn called the Lido Venice on Court Street. He was a total character, and he was the first one to make a lot of money out of his clan. So he built a house out in the suburbs, and on Sundays in the summer, all these guys would come up with Lincolns and limousines and Cadillacs and Thunderbirds, and they'd have egg throwing contests in the backyard. And it was like I was around these guys. So when I went to LA, I changed my name to Alex Statler. And I didn't want to be Italian. I wanted to be an American and get roles as doctors. And I'm serious. I was Alex Statler for 10 years. And I was in Pretty Woman as Alex Statler. I was in Pretty Woman as Alex Statler. I played doctors and lawyers. And then I couldn't get an audition for The Godfather 3 because my name was Alex Statler. So I was like, so I changed my name back. And then once I got on The Sopranos, everybody wanted me to play gangsters. So did it worry me? Not as an actor. I love working. I'll play a gangster 11,000 times and I'll try and find a new slant or a new way. As a human being, I didn't want to be that guy like my father's friends from Brooklyn. I didn't want to do it. So I changed my name. Like if you look on IMDb, I was Alex Statler from 1982 until 1990. From 82 to 90, I was Alex Statler. I got The Sopranos in 98.
That's pretty funny because didn't you do General Hospital and like way back when, and you had a different name, right?
No, my character was Nick. Yeah, I might have been Alex Statler in General Hospital. I don't even remember. But yeah, I did General Hospital a few times. And then I did a spinoff of General Hospital for a year called Port Charles. I was on that show right before The Sopranos for 1 year. And yeah, it's funny. Like I just love performing. I don't care if I play a gangster, a priest. It's all fun. It's just a great environment. Being around creative people, talking to you, just I love it. It's so much better than normal life on the street. I don't have to worry when I'm acting, when I'm rehearsing, when I'm reading a script, when I'm studying my lines. I don't have to worry about the Republicans or the Democrats or global warming. I don't have to worry about any of it. I don't have to worry about paying my mortgage. I'm in another world. I love performing. I'd do it 24 hours a day if I could.
Yeah, that'd be nice for sure. I mean, at this point right now, you have, I think, 2 new projects on the show, I believe, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the names. I think I wrote it down.
I'll tell you. I've got a nice role on the second season of Reacher on Amazon Prime. That'll be out pretty soon. I love that show. I love Reacher. And I love Reacher because Reacher brings justice to people. And for the last 10 years, people can't get justice in America anymore. All the DAs let all the criminals go. There's no such thing as bail anymore. All the mayors and the DAs care about are the criminals, not the victims, not the people that get robbed, not the guy who owns the candy store. They're worried about the people stealing, that they have a right to eat. I don't know what's going on. So in Reacher, everybody gets justice. So I love that show. I want the bad guys to get their heads smashed in. That's how I look at life. And I want the good people who pay taxes and are honest to be rewarded, not the bums. But that's just me. So I like Reacher. The other show I'm doing is Umbrella Academy. What, man?
It ain't just you. It's me too. I agree with you.
Yeah, I love it. And then I'm shooting Umbrella Academy right now in Toronto. It's called the Umbrella Academy. It's in its fourth season. I'm just guest starring for an episode, and that's on Netflix. And I've got a big movie coming out that I think is going to be a really good movie. Fingers crossed, you never know, but I think this is going to be a good movie. It's called Big George, and it's the George Foreman story. I play Gil Clancy. That'll hit theaters April 28th, 2023. And what else? I just did one other thing. I've got a new movie on BET Plus called Blossom that just came out. I play a psychiatrist, but not an Italian. An Italian psychiatrist would be like this. They go, hey, stop telling me your goddamn problems. Get up in the morning at 6, work, run 5 miles, work out, eat well, stop smoking and drinking, and
yeah, pretty much. But you've done a hell of a lot of acting, and you keep moving on with that, and you do performances like in the Cutting Room and stuff like that here in the city. From all this work you've done, have you ever thought of producing or directing yourself?
I produced a movie once with me and Jimmy Matteo, and when you produce a movie, it's the equivalent to building a small apartment house in New York City. You have to do everything. You got to take care of the foundation, the carpenters, the work, the sheetrock, the carpeting, the floor, the hardwood floor. When you produce, you got to do everything. Like it's your thing. You have to take care and supervise everything. Directing, I'd much rather act. Directing would be interesting. If I had something I was super passionate about maybe politics or making the world better or fixing how messed up something is, and that it was a story like that, maybe. But I love showing up and pretending. It's so much fun. And they feed you, you're in your trailer, you don't have to do much other than act. I love it. So I don't know about that. If I was ever passionate about a story or an idea that I felt needed to be told, I'd produce or direct. But other than that, I love being a performer.
Like I said earlier, you've acted in a lot of different projects and you've worked with a lot of people. If there was any actor you haven't worked with yet that you would love to work with, who would it be?
I worked with Pacino, but I had such a small role. I would love to have a big, meaty, juicy role with Pacino. I'd love to work with Elizabeth Hurley for all the wrong reasons. I'd love to work with who do I really? I know it sounds crazy, but I love Kevin Costner and Mel Gibson. I think they're both fantastic actors. And after Costner did Dances with Wolves, he could do anything, as far as I'm concerned. It was a masterpiece. And after Gibson did Braveheart, he could do anything. I think those guys, I'd love to work with both of them, and especially if they were directing. I'd love it.
Oh, well, one of my final questions is, because you've played so many different roles, is there any specific genre you prefer more than others? Like say drama or comedy or something else? What do you like most to like feel most comfortable in?
I love it all. I love comedy. Comedy is so much fun, and I love drama. I love playing bad guys, because if when if you're acting well, you're really doing it. It's, you're really doing it. Like, the gun's not loaded, but you're going through the motions of shooting somebody. It's not a real gun, but you're doing it in your emotions. Your adrenaline's going. So when you play bad guys, you can experience things you never could experience in life, because you will go to jail. So that's why I love playing bad guys. You get to be irreverent and totally go outside the envelope. But after you like shoot someone in the head, instead of running from the cops and going to jail, people are like, hey, great job, man. That looked really good. Good going. So I love playing bad guys.
That's an interesting way to look at it. Yeah, very interesting. That explains how a lot of guys who can't really act want to play those kind of roles. But I've seen that way too often, and I'm sure you have as well. Well, one thing I forgot to ask earlier. You did work under this one gentleman, Milton Katselas.
It's, oh my, you know, there are turning points in life. Beatlemania was a massive turning point, a massive turning point. And then The Sopranos was a massive turning point in my life. After The Sopranos, I owe almost everything to David Chase. Like, my whole life changed. I knew I'd work for the rest of my life. I was, after The Sopranos, I was known in the industry as like a reliable actor. And then after House of Cards, that was another turning point. That was the first streaming show. And I love doing House of Cards. So Milton, I owe everything to him. I owe everything. I know that I would not be sitting in this room. I'd be doing something, but it wouldn't have been as good. Milton Katselas, I studied with him from 1984 to really in 98, I moved to New York, but I still would study with him when I was out in LA for about another 4 years. So about 14 years solid, and then maybe 20 altogether, 18. That guy taught me how to be a human being, how to get along with people on the set, how not to bring drama anywhere, to look at the bright side of everything, to make everything work, and not bring anyone your problems, bring them a couple of solutions to your problems before you even tell them the problem. So that guy taught his students how to work. He taught the students how to get work. And very few acting teachers do that. And he taught you, and he used to say, if you're an asshole, no one's going to want to work with you. It's going to get around fast. And they're only going to work with you if they absolutely have to. And you're that famous or that important. He goes, no one wants to be around assholes. He used to say, when I cast a movie, I think like, who could I hang out with for 30 days? Who would be fun on location? That kind of thing. He taught you how to be a better person. And I changed drastically in that class. I learned respect for literature. I learned respect for the author, and that the material was far more important than me. Most actors, they're on a thing for a day. They think the whole day is about them. It's not. You're there adding a color to the material. The material is a giant painting, and you're bringing one color. But these guys show up like, hey, it's all about me, with this tiny role. And he taught you that you're part of a painting, and you need to respect everything else and understand your place in the painting. Anyway, I don't want to go into all this, but I owe that guy my life, honestly.
No, that's it. You remind me of somebody that you actually work with, who I had the pleasure of meeting twice. And that was the late James Gandolfini, because he was that kind of guy. He was very down to earth. He liked to give. He was a good man.
He was one in a million. You just described him perfectly. He was humble. He never let the stardom go to his head. he always considered himself a lucky man instead of an entitled man. I deserve this. I deserve. He knew we were all lucky. We're lucky, and then we have to deliver, we have to grow, but we're lucky. And that's how you should walk around the earth going, I'm friggin' lucky, and I need to realize that and be very respectful and grateful. Jimmy was fabulous. Jimmy was terrific. He was a good guy,
No
good
doubt.
human being.
Yes, he was. Well, Al, I want to tell you I really appreciate you coming on after our many technical difficulties.
Today was a doozy.
Yeah, no kidding. But it's all good. It's all good. We got it done.
And is this going to be a show? Are you going to have me and Louis Martini and John Fiore on one? Is that how it works? You have like 3 segments, or we do separate ones?
No, I did John. We already did John, and we already did Lou. It's separate. Like you have your own.
Oh, good. Yeah. I love John Fiore. I love those guys. John is a great guy.
Yeah, he is. Very funny character, no doubt.
I worked with him on a lot of stuff. Brotherhood, The Sopranos. I worked with him on a bunch of things, a couple of movies.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Well, like I said, it was a pleasure having you, Al. I wish you luck over there in Toronto, and hopefully we'll keep in touch. And if my project gets where it's gonna get, I love you to be part of it.
All right, thank you. Call me anytime.
Thank you, Al. I appreciate it.
Thanks. Sorry it took so long to make it work.
That's
all right, take care, man.
Take care, Al. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
It's another segment of Mob Tales with Nick Christophers. Please share, like, and subscribe to the channel. We definitely would appreciate it.